Alright guys, how's it going? If you're watching this, you've probably purchased one of the self-built kits. What we've got here is the 6-foot Slappy Pad. So, these are all the components that come with the kit. I'll just talk you through it quickly and then we'll get on to the important bit, which is the build, so you can go and ride it. Right here, we've got the top of the pad. Recessed at the back to take your flat bar or your angle iron, depending on what you order. Here we've got the back, here we've got the front, which is the Slappy panel. Then you've got your coping, then you've got your choice of steel for the back. Over here we've got the angle iron, and if you follow me over here, we've got 4 beams, 4 profiles, 2 coping clamping blocks, and we've got every single fixing that you're going to need. We've also included a posi 2-bit, which you use for every single one of these screws. Over here we've got 2 nuts and 4 washers. Why 2 nuts, 4 washers? Because we know that you might lose some, so we've put another couple in there. And also we've got these 2 magic things, which I'll show you later, which are going to be a spare pair of hands. Now, to build all of this, we've pretty much done everything for you. It's really simple to do, really simple to follow, and you're only going to need 2 tools. One is a combi drill, and the other is a 17mm spanner or ratchet spanner, or you can use a socket set. So let's get building. Okay, so as you can see, I've cleared a bit of space. It's important, if you can, clear as much space as possible, just to avoid you losing any bits and bobs or tripping up over yourselves. So the first thing that we're going to do to get this built is get some screws in. Now if you come here a second, you'll see that we've provided you with 3 different size screws. These are the ones we want. These are 5x70mm screws. So we're going to get those screws, and to help us, we're going to start the screws. So we're going to screw them ever so slightly in these holes.
Okay, so we've got some pre-drilled holes there.
All of the holes in this kit are pre-drilled, right. So it's so
and this
easy.
Is the longest screws we're going to put in.
These are the longest screws,
right.
And it's so easy. So here we go. I'm just going to put them in a little bit, not all the way. There you see, that's just enough. And this is just going to act like an extra pair of hands, so we're not holding beams and holding a screw and trying to hold the screwdriver at the same time. So nice and simple, nothing too technical, nothing too taxing. Don't forget, these are the longest screws in the kit. So the way that I found to do this, turn it on its edge, lift this up with one hand, depending whether you're left-handed or right-handed, and just lean it in. Now what you're going to try and do is pinch the beam up to the side of the profile. And you can see that that beam is now level or flush.
Oh, so that's smooth with the top.
That's smooth with the top.
Okay.
So we're going to send this in. There you go. And that's that done. So now we've got a free hand, we can do the next one. So we're going to go to the other side and do exactly the same again. Then we're going to do the same for here, and then we're going to do it for the other section as well. So let me get this beam in. Now this should just slot in hands-free. Again, lift it up so it's level with the top, grip it, and send it in. Can you see that this screw is just slightly proud, which means
sticking out a little bit.
Yeah, so we actually need that to be flush or into the profile. So I'm just going to take it out and send it in.
Nip it up tight.
I'm going to go switch with my left hand. Lovely job. Now we're going to repeat that process with another half. There you go. Nice. Now, as the Spice Girls say, when 2 become 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to push these together. Now, we need to line them up. We've got 5 small screws for you, so these are the smallest screws, and the idea behind these screws is to screw these 2 profiles together. You can put these wherever you like, but our recommended positions are here, underneath, at the back, one in the middle at the top, and one in the middle at the back as well. Don't forget to keep double checking. It doesn't hurt anything if you double check.
Keep it in line.
Keep it in line. So we've got two more, one up here. So next thing we want to do is put the back on this whole ramp, which is just over here. This is the back.
What does that say?
That says T or P, which means top. Arrow's pointing up, so that's going to go up the top. But just to note that this back doesn't have any angles cut on it.
So that's just that square cut.
Just
on
a square
that.
cut,
Okay.
because the top and the Slappy panel have angles cut on them. Now,
Got to line things up, right?
yeah, so we're going to line these up. But what I found, another handy tip, is to start the screws, but this time we're going to have the screws poking out of these holes
Just a
because
little bit. Right.
they'll just fit in there. We've used up all but one size of the screw. So this massive pile of screws here are all you're going to need for the rest of the project. What I said about starting these screws is I'm just going to screw them in until that lifts up off the floor. It's a great way to see it. There you go.
Uh-huh.
And then we're going to use that.
So the tips are just poking through a tiny bit.
Yeah. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side. If you need to adjust it, don't worry. It's better to get it right than to get it wrong.
Screw in that hole.
Yeah. So we've got these two holes here, so I'm just going to get it. And look at that. Look at that. Like it was designed like that. Similar process. It's really simple. It's really easy. We've done all of the thinking for you. Holes line up. Send it.
So there we go, back panel.
Back panel. Okay, now at this point again, we just want to check that all of our screws are good, especially the ones on the inside. Then here at the back, we just want to send a screw in there as well.
So you've got the screws go in the middle at the back.
The screws go in the middle, so they're going to
And the
find here.
pre-drilled holes there as well, yeah?
And then we've got screws that screw into the beam. Here we go. Send it.
So there's little holes in here too, right?
Again, all of the holes you're going to any of the holes that you're ever going to put a screw in are pre-drilled for you.
Got a hole there, and then there's another hole there.
Yeah.
And
So there you have it. That's another stage done. Really simple, really easy. We're going to do the coping.
okay.
Again, we've made it as easy as possible. It's a no-brainer. These are the coping clamping blocks. Here's your coping with some threaded bar welded to it. Really, really easy. Turn it like this with the crescent and you just slip it down. Number two, slip it down. The clamping blocks are on. Slide your washer on. We're going to do two. Now, start your nuts with your fingers. We're going to get our 17mm socket or spanner or ratchet, and we're going to wind this nut all the way down up until about 2 or 3 millimeters, because we're still going to want a little bit of play, but we're going to tighten it up at the very, very, very last stage of this build. So that's perfect. That's what we're looking
We just
for.
leave it a little bit wobbly, yeah?
A little bit wobbly, but then we're going to sort that out at the end of the process. So I'm going to do the other one. Perfect.
Great.
And then you're just going to sit it in the
Into
recess.
these recesses. Okay.
It is very important
To make sure it's in the middle,
to make sure it's in the middle. So you want
you've
an
got the same amount either side,
either
yeah?
side, which is perfect at the moment. So there you go.
Right.
Perfect. So now we're going to leave that there, and we're going to get on and fit this panel here, which is
Right.
called the Slappy panel. Again, if you've got someone to help you, that's brilliant, but the way that it's been designed is that you should be able to do this by yourself. If you don't have an extra pair of hands, that's what these are for. We're going to put one on this end and one on this end, and you'll see why in a minute. So now I'm going to go and get the Slappy panel, put it on the surface and start the screws, getting the screws poking out just a little bit so they're easy to locate into the holes that you have on the edges. You have 3 magic letters that form a very, very simple word, but that's very important, and that is top. So I'm going to flip this over. There's my top, and it's going to be facing that way.
So the top's nearest to coping.
Top is nearest to coping. We're going to do the same thing that we did with the back panel, is put the screws in, and then when that lifts up, just so the screw bottoms are poking out, we can then line them up with the holes in the side profiles. So here we go. There we go. 1, 2, 3.
So 3 screws in each side.
3 screws on each side. And we're going to lift this up. And the bottom of this panel actually sits just up off the floor to avoid any chipping when you're moving it or when you're using it. So these little bits here are also going to help lift it up off the ground and help you whilst you're locating the screws. So I generally like to put about
tips
just that much through. Just so when you put it in there, it's going to rest. Too short and it's going to slip down. Too much.
So that helps it grip into those.
That helps it grip into those. Lift it up. It's going to be supported that end. And then, here we go. Thank you. So the screws are in and they've located their holes.
Yep.
Yeah, can you see that? Do you want to just get in there? You. In there. I'm going to put in 1 screw. Not all the way, and then I'm going to go to the other side, do the same process, and when that's self-supporting, I'm going to come in and I'm going to put all the screws in. So, here we go. Just checking that the screws are coming through. Grip it, and then, there we go. So that's just to explain that once this is done, these two, this whole panel is now self-supporting. You can take these out, and then you can come back to the rest of the screws, wind them in, and what we call send them home. Again, especially on this face here, you want those screws to be just underneath the surface. You don't want them poking up in any way because that's going to affect. Used a bit of force. Same again. And a little technique, wind it out a little bit, it's like getting a run up, and then send it home. Almost finished the Slappy panel, but I'm just going to get these 3 in the centre, and we're going to come back to these ones and these ones afterwards. So, 1, Spanish, 2, Swahili, tatu. There you go.
Okay, brilliant. And then these ones here that fix on the coping mountings, we're going to leave them till last or near the end?
It's one of the last processes that we do. The next thing that we're going to do is get that panel to go on the top. We're just going to sit it on, slide it nicely up to the coping, bonk. There we go. Now, our screws are just going to go straight through here because we've got holes in the profile that take the screws in here. See, straight in. Again, just make sure that your screws aren't above the surface and not too far below. 3 more screws on the other side. There we go. So it's already, I don't know how long this has been, but 15 minutes, looking like a skatable obstacle.
Ready to shred.
So now, 1, 2, up there. All the screws are in. And all the bars are on, and the coping is perfect. There we go. So now, the next process that we're going to do is screw through the top of this, and that's going to go into the coping clamping blocks, and that's going to just tighten everything up. So we're going to do it on the top, and then we're going to do it on the slappy panel as well. So I'm going to do it from this side here. And that's the last ones on the top. I'm going to come round to the front. Right now, it's just a little bit away from the coping. We want to get that absolutely perfect. So when we drive these screws in,
and then we tighten the coping, it pulls it all together.
It pulls it all together. So I'm just going to send this home. Delicious. Moving on to the next two. There we go. The next bit, the penultimate phase, aka the second to last thing that you're ever going to need to do on your self-build kits, is to fit either your angle or your flat bar, depending on what you've chosen. For this one, we've got angle, but the process is exactly the same. So, it's pre-cut, it's pre-drilled, every hole is recessed, so you won't get any screws poking up affecting your grindage.
Okay, and that fits in this recess here, does it?
That fits in this recess here. Honestly, we've done everything for you, so you just have to follow the instructions and you don't have to do any cutting, measuring, you just put it together, just like that. Just make sure that it's equal on both sides, which I'm confident that this one is. And then you screw, and what I do is I just push into the ramp a little bit, put the screw down. There we go. And I'm just going to sort of put some pressure on it. Easy as that. 3 more to go. Just checking your screws aren't poking out, which they're not.
Beautiful, Brett.
And that's it. Now what we're going to do is, you remember earlier in the video, we have our clamping blocks here. These are the bits we were talking about.
Okay, I see. And you're just going to tighten the bolts.
Do you remember we left them a little bit loose? So then that's going to really bring that coping down, because we've already screwed it through the front of this. And then I don't want to go too tight.
Just nipping it up.
Just human tight, that's perfect. Next one over here. Again, you can see that's a little bit loose. Perfect how we left it. And that's about right.
So there we go, 6-foot slappy pad.
And that's it.
Thank you, Brett.
No
Nice
problem.
one.